Hi, so in 6.3 exercise, we are going to, this video is we're going to go over some 6.3 exercise, how to factor trinomial where a is equals to 1, such as we have n squared minus 9n plus 8. So we already talked about that in our lecture, which is AC method. So what is AC method? We want two number, such as number 1 and number 2, then multiply equals to a times c, which is in our case a is equals to what? A equals to 1, b equals to negative a, and c equals to 8. So a times c, which is equals to 8. And then we want these two numbers, the sum equals to b. In our case, it would be negative 9. So now we need to think about which two numbers they multiply equals to a, and the subtraction, or not subtraction, the addition equals to negative 9. Since it's a negative 9, so, and the multiplication is a positive number, that means what? So these two numbers has to be negative, right? Because if two positive numbers, they multiply together, you will get a positive number. However, two positive numbers, the sum of two positive numbers is a positive number. So that means if two negative numbers, the multiplication of two negative numbers is going to be positive. But the sum of a two negative numbers is equals to negative. So we know that the first number and second number has to be negative. So now we need to think about which two negative number when they multiply equals to 8. Well, we have negative 1 times negative 8 or negative 2 times negative 4, right? And now we want these two numbers, the sum of these two numbers equals to negative 9. So really obvious, it has to be the first one. So that we will have n minus the first number, which is negative 1 times n minus 8. So that's how we factor it. But you don't need to write 0 because they didn't tell you to solve it. They just tell you to factor it. Okay, now let's look at another example, such as p squared plus 7p minus 30. Okay, so in this one, again, we use AC method. So a equals to 1, b equals to 7, c equals to negative 30. And then we want these two numbers, when they multiply, equals to a times c, which is negative 30. And then we want this number, the sum of these two numbers equals to positive 7. So think about that. Two numbers multiply equals to a negative number, which means one has to be positive, the other has to be negative. And then a one positive number add a negative number, and then end up to get a positive number. That means what? The bigger number has to be positive. The small number is going to be a negative. Because you think about the other way around. If you have a big and negative number, which is negative 9, a small positive number, the sum of these two numbers is going to be negative. If you want them to be a positive, it has to be a bigger positive number and smaller negative number. So you will have a positive. The sum will be positive. Okay. So now think about it. Which two number multiply equals to negative 30? So we have multiple option, 3 and 10. But we talked about it. The bigger number is positive, the small number is negative. Or the other option would be negative 5, negative 2, and 15. Or what other combination? 5 and 6, but with negative 5. Smaller number is the negative. Okay, any other option? I couldn't think of others. So, okay, that's it. So we want n of these, the sum is equal to positive 7. Well, again, that's obvious, should be this first combination, negative 3 and 10. So that we have p minus 3 times p plus 10. That's how you factor it. Okay, So let's do one a little bit complicated, such as 6x squared plus 18xy plus 12y squared. Okay, so this one, let's take a look. It's a trinomial, yes, because it comes with 3 terms, but a is not equal to 1. So what we're going to do? Well, I mentioned it in the lecture many times. The first thing you do is try to factor it. Factor the whole polynomial. So let's see, what do they have in common? 6, 18, and 12. So their common factor is going to be 6. So we factor the 6 out with x squared plus 3xy plus 2y squared. Okay, so now we have what? A trinomial with a equals to 1. A equals to 1. Okay, so now again we do the same trick. We want our a equals to 1, b equals to 3, and c equals to 2. We want two number multiply equals to a times c, which is 2, and we want two number add equals to 3. So this one is quite obvious. It has to be 1 and 2, because 1 times 2 equals to 2, 1 plus 2 equals to 3, which is the same as our symbol. But one thing you need to be careful, because this is not just 2, this is 2y squared. That means when you factor it, it has to come with y. So I have x plus 1y times x plus 2y. Because you also need to factor y squared into 2 parts, y and y. So you end up to have 1y and 2y, not just 1 and 2. Okay, now let's do another example. What about 30v squared plus 20v minus 25? Okay, again, this is not the trinomial that we want, because I write this wrong, I'm sorry, this is 5, not 30. Okay, so the first step is you try to factor the common factor. So let's look at the number. What do they have in common? 5, right? I factor the 5 out. I have 5 times v squared plus 4v minus 5. Okay, again, we want two number. Then multiply equals to a times c, which is -5. And then we want two number that the sum equals to b. So which two? Again, the multiplication of two number, the product of two number equals negative number. That means you will have one negative, one positive. And then the sum of these two number is equal to a positive number. That means the bigger number has to be a positive number. The smaller number is going to be negative. Well, you can only factor 5 as what? 5 and 1, right? 5 times 1. But we talked about it. We want the smaller number to be the negative. So that we have 5 times v minus 1 times v plus 5. Because this is the two number. Okay, let me know if you have other questions.